good music at 320p. Thanks, YouTube.
Hey, this is Brian coming to you live from Death Squad Studios here in Pasadena, California for a brand new episode of Pointless. And now here's our host, Kevin Pereira.
What the? That was so quaint and gentlemanly. It was. Are you doing a thing?
No.
That was nice.
Thank you.
I feel like that's something you say before starting a PowerPoint presentation to sell me a timeshare.
On NPR.
Yes, we're being serious today because we have
NPR
serious folks in the studio. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an absolute pleasure to be joined for Pointless episode number 14 by writer, host, science, lover of science.
Sure.
Anything? What am I? I mean, I'm sure I'm missing a lot. Huffington Post.
Yes.
Talk nerdy to me.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, Cara Santa Maria is here.
Big audience in the studio.
Normally,
tonight.
yeah. Thank you for adding to your own round of applause.
Yeah.
Normally, the intros are far more grandiose and also far more delayed. But we have been chatting, and I did not want to lose the momentum of our discussion because I have determined in the last 15 minutes from chatting with you that the best stuff of this podcast is the off-limits stuff.
Yep.
It's the absolute off-limits stuff.
Yep.
Terrible. Inquiring minds want to know. Brian, how are you, sir?
I'm doing quite great. Thank you for asking.
Oh, is Brian nervous? What's happening over here?
Can you tell me what's happening over
I
here?
have no idea.
Nothing is happening, guys. I'm just enjoying this day.
He's
Except
wearing
for
a
the rain.
tie. Are you wearing a tie for me, Brian?
Of course I'm not. I had an interview at Staples.
Jesus Christ. Cara, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for joining us here today on this pointless excursion. We have so much science to talk about. We have non-science stuff to talk about as well. Damn it, I can't. It's so.
Control yourself, Kevin.
You fucking put a straight jacket on me right away because
I didn't. You asked.
I made such a Bush League rookie mistake by asking. By the way, tell me if anything's off limits. Who asks that anymore?
But
Amateurs
you know
do.
what would have happened is that instead of then asking me beforehand, you would have just asked me something on the air.
Sure.
And I would have been like, we're not talking about
But
this
then I
right
could
now,
have
dude.
artfully and cordially tap danced around
because
that
I'm-
and
no,
lured
because-
you in
because I'm
to a
smarter than you,
conversation about things. Listen, everybody is smarter than me about things, and that's why it works, because you're like, well, clearly he's not getting to the core of me. He's retarded. That's how that works. Let me ask you this.
Okay.
Your Facebook status right now, it's complicated or it's fucking impossibly complicated?
My Facebook status is that I have no Facebook status.
You leave that out?
Intentionally.
You just don't even bother changing it?
So I have two Facebook pages. I have, like the fan page.
Right.
And that obviously doesn't have a status. And then I have my personal page, which is completely buried. And it has no status.
Like fake name, fake profile pic, or real name just totally hidden and behind gates and guards?
Exactly. So used to be that when I first started kind of doing things on air, I would just accept every friend because I thought that would be important. And then I realized really quickly that I needed to kind of keep my private life and my public life separate. So
Right.
I made a page where I can actually, and the funny thing is I actually interact way more on my fan page. Like I don't even do anything on my private page. People invite me to parties and then they'll be like, where were you? And I'll be like, I didn't know there was a party.
Yeah, it was
I don't
buried
even
underneath
look.
the 40 other updates of somebody tagged me in a photo of a dog's penis or
It's
whatever.
Like,
That's what my friends do.
I don't care. And so I'm just like not that active on that side of Facebook. So I do have a personal page, but it's kind of lame.
And that personal now, that arm's length distance for everybody out there, that is, you are sticking hard and fast to that. That is, everybody stay away from my personal business. Is that because people trolled in the past? Is that because what's the reasoning behind that?
I think I had to make a conscious decision because, as you know, and as anybody who has fingertips and can Google knows, I've been in a couple of like more high profile relationships. And I think that there are things that kind of I want to have as my own. You know what I mean? I don't want everything about my life to be in the public arena.
And plus, when it's online, to an extent, like it can define you.
It can define you, and also, most of it's not true. Like there's some, I guess, rumor on the internet that I dated Seth MacFarlane, which like never happened.
I did see a Google image of you guys
Well, yeah, I
together
knew
at an
him.
event. That
Sure.
means there was penetration
Exactly.
involved.
Like this is the internet.
Yeah.
This is the world we live in. So I think that, it's like I'd rather just kind of not have to confirm nor deny. I'd rather just say, like, it's none of your fucking business.
Well, confirm or deny at least one for me. Freddie Prinze Jr.
Oh, confirm.
Third base? Fourth base? Did he...
What is your obsession with Freddie Prinze Jr.?
Because you said that you were in two... you said that you were in two high-profile relationships. One, I know about. Anybody can know about.
Sure.
It's a suggested search on Google. It's very easy.
Okay.
And then you said there was another guy. And I said, who? Freddie Prinze Jr. And your eyes fluttered in a way that said that I'm either completely fucking off base or I'm close enough that it was uncomfortable.
I don't know how, like, what does it mean to be close to Freddie Prinze Jr.? Like, what is...
You
what are
tell me what it
defining
means.
First of all, I don't even think I completely know who this person is.
He probably uses a pina colada scented pomade in his hair. That's what I imagine it would be. And I want to just rub my nose through his sideburns and just I want to watch Summer Catch with him and have him tell me it's going to be all right.
You want to get close to Freddie Prinze Jr.
That's
through
the whole
me.
point of this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I would need to meet him first, and then I'll introduce you to.
And so there is that need to sort of. I get it. Like you said, it may sort of define things. And so, hey, you're your own person. You have your own things going on. That's happening now. But the internet still wants to know if you're single.
Sure. And
that happens all the time. And I wonder. And so I'll just ask you, like, does that get in the way of things where it's like, well, here, listen, I know fucking neuroscience.
Yeah.
I do videos for the Huffington Post. I'm very well read. Why is the fourth suggested search term me in a bikini?
Yeah, exactly. So that is, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it is, which is so funny because, like...
Well, it was suggested. I typed in BI and it suggested the rest for me. I mean, it's the first thing I searched for.
What? Oh, you were looking for me
No.
in a bikini.
I do my research on all guests. I put in Cara Santa Maria.
I don't think there are any pictures of me
science,
online.
dating, bikini, bukkake, gaping, smoking holes. I went through
that makes sense.
Everything that I would possibly want to see on a Google image search.
Yeah, of course.
Shut off the safe search filter and nothing.
Nothing.
Which brings me to an even better question. Why aren't you in a bikini forwarding your science career and your online presence?
You know what? Because I already get enough comment. Like, it's so funny. When you go to the Huffington Post and you watch my videos, like every fourth or fifth comment is about my lip ring. It's infuriating. It's never, well, I shouldn't say it's never. It's not often about the content of the video that I worked really hard to write and produce and create for people. It's always kind of like, you know, oh, why is she acting like a nerdy smart chick? And why is she? And it's like, geez, like people I think that we live in this world now that's so kind of inundated with reality TV stars that we have this idea that no one who's ever in front of a screen is like a real person anymore.
Right.
That there's some like marketing team behind them who invented this, you know, this character. I mean, I literally got a comment one time really early on when I first started at HuffPost that was like, why does she have to use this talk nerdy to me title and wear the fake hipster glasses and have like the cheesy name and I was like, oh my God, like I responded to that and I was like, she is me and I wrote this, which is why I'm the one reading it.
Completely deconstructed you like you were manufactured.
Exactly. It's so crazy to me. And so I think that is one of the reasons
that's
try to be really genuine.
An interesting observation because I think in the past, the premonition was if you're in video form, whether it's on TV or on the internet or wherever that video was, it's like, oh, you were real. You were defined by that. Like, oh, this person has to be real because nobody's fake. This is all happening. It is real. And now I think you're right. The pendulum has swung so far in that other manufactured direction that it's like, well, anybody you're seeing has been touched by PepsiCo and Scooter Braun.
Yeah.
Like the two of them have colluded, and now that's why they said you put on these glasses. We're changing your name to Cara Santa Maria.
Yes.
And now you talk science because we think that's going to get us a $5 CPM on YouTube.
Exactly. Like somebody else is like feeding something into my earpiece and I'm just like pretending to sound like I know what I'm talking about, which is just hilarious.
Well, the odds
are
stacked against you. You're an attractive woman and you're talking about science. And if history and the internet is our guide, that is an impossibility. It requires you to get away from the kitchen, to wear shoes, to not... I'm serious. I'm not saying that these are my opinions.
The history of the internet is. I think the internet.
History of YouTube comments. How about that?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, YouTube comments. So, like, what the fuck do they matter? You know what I mean? Like, I don't think about YouTube comments at all. I am involved in like the comments, especially on HuffPost. You know, my videos live in both places. They live on my column on Huffington Post through kind of our proprietary server or our video player at AOL, and then they go to YouTube after the fact. I don't even read the comments on YouTube. I definitely don't respond to them. I do get really engaged in the commenting community on HuffPost because we have a good commenting community with good moderators, and people are there hopefully to try and have like interesting conversation.
Sure. What happens to the lip ring guy whenever he comments? Like, does it just get deleted or?
No, those stay because they're not, that, I guess, aggressive or,
Sure.
like if something is really aggressive, they'll take it down. But
plus there is science behind wondering if that's going to get caught in a Prince Albert.
Of course.
There is some science there. Will there be tearing?
What actually happens, the really funny thing is what actually happens is that at this point, I think I have enough kind of people who come every week to see my new videos and who know me that will sort of, I have like this little army of people who will defend me for me. I don't have to do that as much anymore. And also I just, as a general rule, any of you who are listening who are like on my Facebook page, I respond to everybody when they send me messages. I make it a rule. I always respond to messages on Facebook unless they're over a page long because, come on, I don't have time. Or you like overtly comment about my looks in kind of a degrading way, or you ask me on a date. And it sucks too because sometimes there will be this long, really interesting email with a lot of interesting questions and flattery but not over the top and just nice, insightful things will be said, and then they'll be like, "Anne, I really want to take you out," and blah blah blah, and then it's like,
Right.
well, I'm just not going to respond to you now because this is obviously not a forum for that.
Brian, did you get that? Did you get all that? Yes. Okay. He's working on like a 2-page manifesto about wanting to play hide the breadstick at an Olive Garden with you. And I'm like, listen, that's not the way to her heart.
Well,
it's
you know
through
what's funny is
science.
that we actually did go to Olive Garden.
Yes, we did.
We went to Olive Garden and we ate some breadsticks and we tried to podcast it.
That was a podcast fail.
It was a podcast fail.
Well, like we would like look over at one point and then like my microphone would be on my lap and I would be sitting on it. Or
yeah, and mine would be like in my soup or something. And it was like
just
I don't
covered
think
in
this is
Alfredo
working.
sauce.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, we got the Alfredo sauce.
Oh,
Did you get the little side boat to dip the breadsticks
You
in?
have to.
You have to.
You have to.
You have to. You know what, Bob? I had my 30th at an Olive Garden recently. And I swear, if you're listening, we will get to science, and I will be a proper host, maybe. But I had my 30th there, and the difference, the last time I had eaten at an Olive Garden, I was probably like 16 years old. And I was shocked that they now have calorie counts on the menu. And it made me realize that throughout most of like high school, I was eating 5,000 to 6,000 calories at a sitting at an Olive Garden. I'd be like a little Alfredo boat for the breadsticks, some salad, the chicken Alfredo for the main, because you can't have enough of that fucking crack sauce.
Yeah, it's so good though.
And it really kind of grossed me out. I couldn't deal with it.
Is that like a world, or not a worldwide, is that like a nationwide thing, or is it just a California, New York kind of law?
That's a good question.
I don't think in Texas they have the calorie count.
No, and if they do, they advertise them in neon and they're proud of them.
Exactly.
You don't want 16,000 calories in your burger, get the fuck out of here.
Yep, that's home.
Yeah, that is home. Which part of Texas?
I'm from Dallas.
Okay.
And we are proud of our calories.
You guys
there.
are. And Houston's the fattest city in the country, is
I
it
could
not?
see that.
I think it is.
Sure.
I think it is.
Probably the sweatiest too.
Oh,
I would
yeah.
think so.
Yeah,
Houston's
definitely the sweatiest.
gross.
Swamp ass.
From Dallas, then you went to New York for science?
For science. Only for like a year. I went there to start a PhD.
When you were growing up, did you get like the plastic food play sets and girl talk, or were you given beakers and Legos and more? Like when did you start gravitating towards science?
It's weird. I can't really put my finger on it. I don't think that I ever thought. Well, okay, when I was in kindergarten, I thought I was going to be a paleontologist because I was obsessed with dinosaurs. That never changed. I was always obsessed with dinosaurs. But when I started college, I went to college to study vocal jazz. Like, I did not think that I was going to go into science. I was a singer. That's what I cared about.
Can you scat solo?
I can. Let's not take that the wrong way. But it's pretty good.
I'm waiting for you to give
No,
a
I'm not gonna
little squeeb up.
Nope, not doing it. I'm kind of
Dip.
just let Kevin take over here.
Come on, you got a little something?
I'm
Do you
still
what do you need to
kinda
do some vocal
sick.
scales?
No, I'm not doing it. I'm not
you're
doing it.
the internet is. I can hear the internet chanting. Do it. They're saying it right now.
Hey, leave her alone, man.
I'm shy. Oh, Brian. This is so sweet.
That's not cool. I think she feels bullied. Cut it out, dude. Come on, man. You wouldn't like it if you were on the spot. I'm gonna choke you with that tie.
Oh God. So
you were a singer then.
I was a singer though. Yeah.
Like
way
wanted
back
to be singer-songwriter type. Like
I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just wanted to smoke
the
weed.
next Lisa Loeb, the next Natalie
I just
Breuer.
wanted to smoke weed.
I thought you were straight edge.
That's all I cared about. I was never straight edge.
Never straight edge. You are now though.
I don't. Well, I have sex.
Oh, well, straight edge people can fuck, right? Yes, they can.
No, straight edgers don't fuck.
That's what they write on their fists, and then they put them in other straight edgers.
No, they don't.
Isn't that what they do?
They don't.
Really? That's one of their things?
Yeah, that's one of their
I
things.
thought it was like no drinking, no smoking,
no drinking,
else.
no smoking, no drugs, no sex.
Yeah.
No wonder I'm not getting laid at this party.
Yeah,
I thought it was because
exactly.
the broads weren't drunk enough, but
No.
it turns out
No.
that's one of their things.
Yeah,
No
that's
sex?
totally one of their things.
That's bullshit.
I know, it's bullshit.
Can I
was
pick and
never
choose,
straight
like a vegan who eats fish?
Sure. I mean,
Okay.
you can do whatever you want. I don't give a shit.
All right.
But yeah, I was never straight edge. I was a huge pothead, like in late high school, early college. So really, I just wanted to. I mean,
How did
I
you
wanted to
how
go
did
to
you get turned
school.
on a pot? I always love first timer
Oh,
stories.
God. How
Did you
did I
did
get
you
turned
run
on?
with a rebel group in high school or?
I mean, I guess so. I think what's weird is the first drug that I did pre-pot, I took dextromethorphan. Do you guys remember Coricidin? Oh God, I'm not giving anybody advice here. This is
No, but I'm
horrible
googling
for
it.
you.
Let's go. Go
Yeah.
to Arrowhead, everybody. Find out the real truth.
There was like a thing I think around that time when I was in school, maybe like late 90s, early 2000s when I graduated high school in 2001, so like late 90s when
This was our hand sign, by the way. 01 as well for me, and we'd go 01. See that shit? I guess it's more like that.
I did not do that.
We were so
I
fucking
never did.
cool.
Yeah.
Deer Valley High School, what's up? Teal and Black, Wolverines. Sorry, graduated in 01.
Yeah.
And then you started taking
No,
chorus.
before. Like this was
Before.
like early high school, probably like 9th, 10th grade. We would take because you could buy it like over the counter.
GNC or
No, just at the pharmacy.
Was this like stuff for
Cough
use for
medicine.
cough syrup?
Yeah,
oh,
it's
okay.
just like
You're the reason I got to swipe my ID to get some allergy medicine. Is what you're
Exactly.
saying.
Well,
You're
but-
the reason I got to
exactly.
prove I'm not making bathtub meth. when I
allergy
get a
medicine.
cold.
Yes, is bathtub meth, but cough medicine. So some people would do the Robitussin. That was a way to get
Sure.
DXM.
Oh, I've tussed.
Yeah, exactly. And we would do Coricidin, which were the little red pills. They called them like red devils.
Ooh,
I don't know.
okay.
And so we would take those and just
And what
get
would be the side effect? Like
fucked
you
up.
get buzzed or you
No,
get...
So DXM is a mild
it's
dissociative.
DXM. Yeah, okay.
DXM, dextromethorphan.
People cut.
It's like
people
ketamine.
cut MDMA with DXM.
Sure, yeah, and it's basically like a weak ketamine. So I don't know if you've ever done ketamine.
I haven't.
I've done it like once and I hated it.
Did you go
DXM
into a hole and see
I
yourself
did.
from the corner of the
I
room?
hated it.
Really?
Yeah, but that's what it does. It dissociates you a little bit. So
Yeah.
DXM, depending on your dosage, you get dissociated, and that's why people on Robitussin they say that they like robo walk because they're not really in control of their bodies anymore.
Mm-hmm.
If they took even more, which you can't really do with DXM because it's weaker, you would go into a hole too. But
If you take enough, if you drink like 3 bottles of Robitussin, you actually fight Ed 209.
Probably.
That's how much you robo walk.
and then you die.
yeah.
Yeah,
Of course,
exactly.
You can overdose on that shit, right? Like, isn't it?
Totally.
Like, it's
Oh, yeah.
really.
A lot
It's
of
like
people die from that.
not good for you at all.
Okay,
Like,
so
none
don't
of
do the
this is-
Tussin. What's the best
Don't do
drug to
any
do
of
these
this.
days? Well, I mean, come on. What's the best way to blast our brain cells? and still
keyboard
have a good
cleaner.
time?
Keyboard cleaner.
No, God.
Yeah,
no,
you got to
it's
huff
just-
it, right? Like
yeah.
walking on sunshine.
Just weed. I mean, weed is like better for you than pot. I mean, than alcohol. Weed's better for you.
Weed's
than,
way better for you.
yeah.
than
It's like
alcohol.
I never drank. That was a thing that I always stayed away from. So even now, like I don't drink. I don't even have a drink.
Mm-hmm.
I smoked weed a lot in high school, and I tried other drugs. You know, I did X a handful of times. I did acid a handful of times. I never
You
got
did
it.
Exhibit the rapper. You're saying
I did, yeah, I did exhibit.
Who hasn't?
Yeah, who hasn't really in Plano, Texas? But I definitely, I never got into like uppers, like meth or you know Adderall, like Ritalin or anything.
Sure.
I never liked feeling anxious. I've kind of always been kind of an anxious person, dealt with depression and things. So I never liked those speedy kind of drugs, Coke or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely enjoyed, I think, doing things like Xanax and Valium back in high school, probably because I felt really sober on them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you didn't feel like you're transforming into somebody
No,
else.
like you
just-
could go
you're
to
you,
sleep,
but relaxed.
You're
or
you, but relaxed
yeah.
and talkative, and you could eat still, and you could go to sleep. Like that's what I always hated about acid is like you couldn't eat when you were on acid. Like everything tasted like paper, and it was weird.
Sure.
And you couldn't come down, and you just wanted to sleep.
But if
and
you take enough bath salts, you can eat somebody's face.
You could,
I mean,
that's
talk
true.
about something for appetite.
bath salts, like that was so not a thing. And
I know,
I feel
right?
like I hung out with these kids who were all about the cutting edge of drugs. Like they were doing weird things called like 2CT7. I don't know if you remember this.
Is that like the class like 2CB, 2CI offshoots? Is that
I
like
have
that?
no idea.
Okay.
Like I never did it, but we would do
It's that whole research chemical thing.
Yeah,
where they
I mean
do
it
ancillary drugs. Yeah.
probably was. And we would do like what was it? Like GHB, except that like we had friends who made it, so they would make lactone, which is like the precursor to GHB, and we would take. I mean, it was crazy. Like we were into some weird ass.
Now
drugs.
you were doing. Now was this a rebellious phase for you, or just an experimental one?
I think it
or-
was all experimental. You know, it's funny. I look back and I don't feel like I ever had like a drug addiction problem. Like I never had to go to rehab. I always made like really good grades in school and I was super academic. The only thing I've ever been addicted to, like honestly in my life, was cigarettes. And I just quit in August of 2011.
Congratulations.
I'm like really happy about it.
How'd you do? What was the method?
The weird thing is I had started an antidepressant. I finally kind of like was not in a good place and decided that I really, I'd been putting off taking an antidepressant for a long time. I'd always been in therapy, but I had said, like I don't need drugs and I don't want to be on a drug.
I don't need the chemicals, man. If it's my brain, I'll break it and I'll fix it.
Exactly. Yeah. And finally it was just like, I think it takes for a lot of people having whatever their rock bottom experience is. And finally I was like, I need to take drugs. And so we were looking for the right one. And the first thing I started on was way too hard for me. It was an SNDRI, which is a serotonin, norepinephrine, dopamine reuptake inhibitor. It's like all three. Mm-hmm. And the norepinephrine reuptake inhibitor was not right for me. It made me speed really bad.
Which for the English-speaking listeners out there
adrenaline.
means you're taking adrenaline, right?
Yeah, I'm taking a drug that makes sure that when my adrenaline is in the synaptic cleft, that the space between the two brain cells, usually it gets kind of reabsorbed in between each firing. This ensures that it hangs out in the synaptic cleft, so I always have enough available to me. But what that translated to me was there's way too much available to me. So I couldn't sleep at night. I was really uncomfortable. Right. But because of the dopamine reuptake inhibitor part of it, that drug class is really similar to Chantix. So I was on it for like a week and I just didn't want to smoke while I was on it. And I was kind of like at rock bottom anyway. So even when I got off of it, because I was like, I can't do this. I haven't slept in 3 days. And we started a new drug and we actually found the drug that worked for me, which is just a straight selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. I'm on Celexa. But when we finally found that, I mean, I immediately wanted to smoke again because it had only been a week. But I was like, fuck it, I'm at rock bottom. I'll just, add insult to injury. At a certain point, it's like shit piled on shit. You can't even make sense of it anymore. So I was like, I'm doing this. If one good thing comes out of this, I'm going to quit smoking. And I did. And
that's amazing.
Yeah, I've stayed off of it. So I'm really happy about that.
Well, and I'm happy that Brian is blowing nicotine
no, I don't care.
laden smoke
that's the thing.
directly your way.
I don't care. It smells like awful to me now. So it's like, no, like I'm fine. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, but Brian's not because you're just saying. We know you're fine in this equation. No, it smells like fucking disgusting to me.
It smells like death and
it smells like
rotting flesh.
Yeah, it smells like I couldn't close my legs any tighter.
Exactly.
It's really disgusting. So the experimentation with drugs and whatnot throughout high school, but that wasn't what made you want to go into a sciencey route. You still wanted to be the lyrical jazz squeebop type.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, that wasn't so much the jazz that I did. I more did like torch songs.
I'd love to hear some
I was much more into like Cole Porter kind of standards and Gershwin standards and stuff. But I'm an alto too. I had a really low kind of like husky voice.
Yeah.
I wasn't so much into the squeebop kind of stuff.
Give us a little taste. Just a taste. All right, we'll get it by the end of it. Yeah. It's either that or talking about relationships. One of the two is going to happen.
This is the problem with not drinking, to be honest. It's like, it's the reason I have a hard time dancing. It's a reason I have a hard time.
I can't dance unless I'm plastered.
Exactly. Like I have too many inhibitions. You know what I mean? My frontal lobe is like working overtime. So I feel like if you put some alcohol in me, I'd be like dancing and singing.
Swallow this whole bottle. Don't even pour it out of the bottle. Literally glass and everything. Just take it all.
One time when I was on ecstasy, a guy totally ate a light bulb. Like I was in my friend's
They're
house.
delicious. If you're rolling, they are. Was it tungsten or fluorescent?
I have no idea. It was the weirdest
tungsten
thing.
Is sweeter.
There was this weird guy who would hang out with us, and he was like, his name was Daniel, and he was weird.
I bet there were a lot of weird dudes who hung out with you. You were hanging out with the kind of guys that were making GHB.
Exactly. That's probably true.
It's not like
that's probably. I kind of like looking
There's
back.
Benny the mailman, and he's mixing meth in a bucket. Hey, Benny. Right.
Weird upbringing. No, the very first place I lived, I started college when I was 16, and I left my mom's house when I started our apartment, and I decided, I'm grown up and I want to live on my own, and I was working at a head shop like you do, and so I had no money, and I found this place in Plano, Texas, that was like I only had to pay $150 in rent because it was like a big house, and there were 4 of us living there. And I call it the crack house, kind of like to be funny, but really it was a meth house. They weren't cooking it there, but like they were selling meth out of my house.
It kept the rent low, did it not?
Yeah, I didn't know what was going on. I was 16. I was 16 living in a house where I would just lock my bedroom door and there were always weird people around like scratching. And one of my one of my
okay,
roommates
guys.
was like a heroin addict, and I would literally find like burnt spoons on the toilet paper. And I was 16. This is all very new to me. But the one perk, I remember always looking back and being like, because they were always fucked up and because they were drug dealers, they always had really good weed, and they would just leave piles of it all over the house.
Sure.
And I'd be like, don't mind if I do.
Yeah, they don't mind.
Like,
they don't know what you're.
They have no idea what's going
Yeah.
on. But I look back and I'm like, wow, I have like a master's degree in neurobiology, and I am like, how did I get out of that?
Congrats
You know what I
on
mean?
escaping that nest.
I had a weird, yeah.
So now, at 16, to be able to move out like that and move into a crack den or a meth haven,
Sure.
Where were your parents in the picture? Were they
They were
protective
like
of you?
from the
Were they-
outset, you couldn't really tell what was going on in that house. Like I lived with a girl who I knew,
Sure.
and she lived with this guy who was kind of like her older brother, like a friend of the family. And I guess he like dealt meth, but like it wasn't, obvious to all the adults in the situation.
Right. He still had his fingernails.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
You could trust him.
But you wouldn't, like, you'd come home at night and be like, why are all these random people sleeping in my house? Like, it was very strange. So my mom was totally in the picture. She had just gotten remarried, and that's kind of why I moved out. I had started college, and I was like, I don't know if I want to live in a new place with, like, a new
fuck
dad.
new
figure.
dad.
Weird. And so...
I'm going to go burn some spoons.
Exactly. No. And mind you, again, I never did meth and I never did
course.
heroin. I was just high all the time. I'm like, these are two totally different things. But my father was at this point not really in the picture. That we had like a falling out when I left the church. Like I was raised Mormon, and so when I left the church when I was like 14, and I basically had to make a decision between living part-time with him, like that was the custody agreement, or and going to church, because he felt like he had a moral obligation to God to make me go to church every
Sure.
Sunday. So when I finally said I can't do this anymore, he was like, well then, like I can't take care of you.
That breaks my heart from your father's perspective to know that you chose to walk the wrong path, and
Yeah, of
he just
course.
had to allow that to happen.
He had
I'm
to
really
allow
sorry
that to-
for him.
Yeah,
that
thanks
is a
for that.
huge leaving any sort of religious establishment,
Yeah.
especially when it's being put upon you by a parental figure.
Sure.
Very hard.
Very hard.
The Mormon faith, in particular,
Mm-hmm.
to walk away and leave, almost impossible for many,
Really hard.
especially for children that are being influenced by the parents.
I
of it.
actually got like a postcard in the mail the other day. Sorry, I'm like stripping down while we're. Ooh, yeah. I got a postcard in the mail the other day. They found me in LA. It's so frustrating. Like when I lived,
Aren't you in like a database?
yeah,
unless
you're in a database. So when I lived in New York, they would like fellowship me all the time.
175 degrees. Let's just make this like hot room yoga.
I'm sorry, you were saying about they found you in a database. This is
So
terrible.
yeah, I got some sort of a, and it's funny because we say it's terrible, but really it's like they bake you cookies and shit. But
I know, right?
But it is kind of like.
But they also, spend millions of dollars to deny your right to marriage if you're gay.
Exactly,
Like it's like your
exactly.
cookies are delicious, but your bigotry
Yes.
and your intolerance doesn't swallow so
it doesn't
easily.
swallow so well unless it's in a Chick-fil-A sandwich. And
Oh
then I'm
my
sorry.
god, it's so good. That deep fried hatred. I don't
know.
care.
I
Put it in my
boycotted
belly.
them for like a week.
Oh, I've
like
never-
I was like, I can't do
I've
it.
actually never. In fact, it became in one of my previous relationships. It became a chicken bone of contention, if you will, where like we got into loud arguments over it because. I had a girlfriend at the time that was like, well, it's delicious and who cares? And I'm like, you're voting with your dollar. And it
Yeah.
became this like struggle over really, you can't not eat the chicken sandwich, on those grounds. And it was like, it's a chicken sandwich.
And yeah,
and we just came
it
to a
gets
head
really
over it.
difficult
Yeah.
because at a certain point, I feel like I could dig into the politics of a lot of these different corporate. It's
Sure.
so hard to know, who you're. Where everybody stands, who's ultimately in control of these
Mm-hmm.
like multi-conglomerate corporations and where's their lobbying money going. It's very difficult as a consumer to be educated about that and to
Right.
make I mean, I don't want to live on a compound and like only eat at Air One. Like that sounds so awful.
Well, and it's especially it's always difficult because the corporations 9 times out of 10 don't actually say
Never,
who they
yeah.
support and what they support. But that's why it's always shocking to me when a Walton or whoever owns Target will come out and say, well, yeah, we actually air on this side, or
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A even. It's always
It's
like
crazy,
really,
I
you're
know.
only going to alienate people by saying that. You should
Exactly.
just quietly fund them and let people slowly find out and be angry.
Exactly. I mean, I guess we should have always known that Chick-fil-A was like closed on Sundays and their kids' meals have like pictures of Jesus in them.
Sure. But like In-N-Out has Psalms and stuff written on the
Exactly,
bottom
but
of their
they're not,
cups,
like-
but to my knowledge, they're not stifling.
Exactly. And that's the
same-sex
thing.
marriage.
There are, what's really funny is Max Tegmark, I think is his name, did a blog on HuffPost Science like last week, and it's a really fascinating blog where our in-house infographic designer made this really beautiful kind of interactive graphic of all the major religions in America and kind of what percentages of them are pro young earth creationism, what percentage of them, allow for the theory of evolution. And basically he showed that only 11% of people in this country belong to a religion that like believes in a literal translation of the Bible. Like only 11% of people belong to a Christian denomination that they wouldn't be able to be pro-gay marriage, or that they wouldn't be able to believe in the Big Bang Theory. Yet a recent Gallup poll showed that 46% of people believe that the earth was created in the form it is today within the last 10,000 years. And so there's this kind of disparity. Like, why do people think this if their religion doesn't even tell them they have to think this?
Right.
And I mean, what Max's conclusion was, and I agree with it, is just that science literacy is so bad in this country. Like,
right. I was going to say, I don't think it has
religion.
that much to do with Jesus necessarily. I think people are like, 10,000 years is a long time.
I know, that sounds right.
That sounds that's a lot older than me and my grandpappy.
Yeah,
so,
it's like so sad.
Sure, it's that old.
And so it's like, come on, like the CEO of Chick-fil-A, it's like, don't be a fucking idiot. You know what I mean? Like, it's easy, I guess, to try and divide, but you're not a politician. You make sandwiches.
Right.
And I want to still buy your fucking sandwich. Don't make me not be able to buy your sandwiches because they taste really good and it's like a 5-minute drive from my apartment. It's tough. And I really like the breakfast burritos.
Well, let me veer the cat driving this bus. I'm going to veer this towards science now, even more so because Earth has been around longer than 10,000 years.
4.5 billion to be exact.
You say, some say, but we got to cut it open and count the rings. There's no way to know. But are we going to last another 10,000? Because recently there were sonic booms. Guile was cracking sonic booms over Russia with little pieces of an asteroid.
Meteor.
A meteor.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between a meteor and an asteroid?
There's a big difference between
Which
a
one
meteor
do you
and an
wish
asteroid.
upon? Which one's filled with whimsy?
You wish upon a meteor.
Okay, good. So the meteor came down.
You could wish upon an asteroid, though. Okay. So an asteroid is like a big chunk of ice or rock that's in orbit.
Got it.
And so once in a while...
Meteors are like the kamikazes of space.
Yes. A meteor is like a piece of something that broke away. It's called a meteoroid as long as it's outside of our atmosphere. The minute it enters our atmosphere, we call it a meteor. And if it hits the ground, we call it a meteorite. So technically, the Russian thing was a meteorite, but we would report on it as a meteor while it was still in the sky.
Blew my mind. What you just said, and also made me think about hemorrhoids. Like if they go inside, is it just a hem, and then is it a hemorite? When does it become a hemorite? On touchdown. I'm 12 and I have ADD and
but
I'm
that's
sorry.
The thing, like oid, doesn't it mean like almost kind of something?
Right.
Like
and then what does that make?
Spheroid is sort of a sphere.
And what does that make the Domino's Noid? Remember that guy from the 80s?
His name was Noid.
Wasn't it Noid? Domino? Can we search?
I know he's like a red guy, right?
YouTube
he was like a little red guy.
Crazy
like
red dude that sold pizzas.
Yeah, I
he was the
him.
Noid. Void the Noid?
Void the Noid, yeah.
Yeah, he was the Noid.
He was Domino's Pizza.
What does that make him? An uninteresting discussion. I'm sorry that I did that.
It makes him almost a thing.
Here's the thing. So the meteorite comes into here, becomes a meteor.
Yes.
Explodes, and now people are scrambling for pieces of these meteorites.
Exactly.
And why? Is it because do they have special properties? Are they going to be, can you cash for gold them?
Well,
are they radioactive?
No, well, meteorites can be worth money.
Mm-hmm.
The cool thing about meteorites is that so, like, if we look at the periodic table of elements, there are some things that don't naturally occur on Earth that only occur out in space. And sometimes these meteorites are made of those things. So it's really just that they're rare.
Okay.
And they can be really beautiful, like very shiny. A lot of times if you go to one of these, like, nerdy stores, like where I buy my scale model dinosaur toys.
Yes.
I have a very large collection.
Do you throw a hoodie on like you're walking into a Planned Parenthood when you go into one of these places? Just going into this random store to buy anything but scale model dinosaur toys because I'm a human being who's an adult.
Well, actually, now I buy them on Amazon. But yeah, when I was young,
would they sell rare earth rocks and stones?
They
and
sell
stuff,
things like that,
unobtainium
and fossils and all sorts of cool stuff. And I have a lot
cool.
of. It's funny because I actually have a lot of nerdy, fun, collectible things like that. I have less in the space realm,
Sure.
because that's not so much my background. And the interesting thing is only in the last year or two have I really developed a love for all things nerdy in space. I find that the majority of the readers and the listeners and kind of the everyday people on the street, when they think science, they think space.
Sure.
And they think physics. And of course, since my background is neuroscience, when I think science, I think brain and body and organs and guts and
Right.
animals. And I do love dinosaurs. It's always been a passion since I was a kid. So I'm only now kind of becoming more comfortable with this idea that science equates with space for a lot of people.
Sure.
And I'm starting to become something of a fangirl of that.
Well, now when you say that you think immediately the body and the brain,
Mm-hmm.
I read that Obama is proposing it's like a decade-long study. He wants to basically do what we did for the genome.
Yeah.
He wants to map the brain, right?
Yeah.
And spend 3-point-something billion on it.
Yeah.
Which some people freak out about. They're like, we're going to spend 10 years and billions of dollars studying the brain. I'm like, do you realize how much money has been made
Exactly.
off of studying the genome? It's like there's literally been, I have it here. I have the story. $800 billion in economic activity off of a $3.8 billion study
Yes.
of the human genome. This
Yes.
was a $3 billion study to map the human brain. Lord knows what that could
Obama's
do.
a smart guy. Like, he's a smart guy.
He's got some smart people in there.
Yeah, he knows that this is going to stimulate the economy. It's
Well, so tell me. I mean, you must be excited about this. You're a brain geek.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea if it's done the right way. I definitely do. I think that putting federal money into intense research projects so that we can learn more about ourselves is ultimately only going to lead to a boom in the economy. It's going to lead to more jobs, but really it's going to lead to potential cures for diseases, to all of the offshoots that are important. You know, when you look at, for example, putting money into NASA, which I'm a huge advocate of, it's not just about going to other worlds. I mean, that's a big part of what NASA does, but so many inventions have come out of
Right. The
stuff like-
technology to do those expeditions
Exactly.
will lead to faster Wi-Fi and Tang-flavored Velcro.
Yes, and the technology to map the brain is going to lead to better ways to diagnose tumors, and it's going to lead to a better understanding of Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and all of these things that we really want to know about. It's also going to ultimately, hopefully, answer some of these holy grail questions in science. I, of course, advocate for science for the sake of science, curiosity for the sake of curiosity, and just training more high-skilled individuals, you know, more thinkers in our own kind of educational sphere, in our own workforce. And so I think that it's a really smart thing. It's a really exciting thing. And I think that the naysayers just aren't looking at the big picture. I think that
Sure.
Obama understands, kind of like the X Prize. I don't know if you've heard of the X
Oh,
Prize,
yeah.
but yeah, it's this competition, and I don't remember what the prize is. It's like $1 million or something, right? To like get a rocket to space or get people.
It was like
to-
the returnable vessel. It could get to suborbit, right?
suborbit
Suborbital
and then be
space,
able to
come
get
down,
it again.
and then and do
and
it
so
again.
it was like you win $1 million if you do this,
Right.
and like most of the people who entered spent like $5 million. Just
Sure.
It's like
It
they're
wasn't
not-
about the prize.
It wasn't
It was
about
never
the
about the
money,
prize.
you know. And so putting in this like $3 billion, which in the grand scheme of things is not that
over
much
10
money.
years
Over
is
10
nothing.
years, it's nothing.
It's what we'll spend on drones and
Exactly.
strip searching you on a Southwest flight.
in like a day.
In the next
yeah,
day, yeah.
exactly. So it's a seed. That's what it is, and that I think is ultimately a strong responsibility of the federal government, because the truth of the matter is, if we leave science purely to the free market, we will be behind. We just will. We have to
Right.
have an organized federal push for science.
I think we'll be behind, and also, and I'd love to get into this discussion. I also think we'll be misinformed, because I believe that when private parties are funding scientific research, the agenda is sometimes more important than the data
Completely.
that's collected. And does that? I mean, like, because I feel like lately people will say, well, the data's in, look at the science. And I'm like, well, the science needs interpretation, and
Yes.
that's where everything gets completely muddled.
Well, and in good science, you don't already know the answer you're looking for before you set out to answer it, you know, and that's the problem with funded science from interest groups. Like, for example, if we talk about fuel, there is obviously science in that, you know, taking biofuels out of the ground, putting them into your car, refining oil. This is all science, you know. These people that work at BP are scientists and engineers. So if we look at the amount of money that's spent worldwide on traditional fuel versus alternative fuel, I mean, there's a huge disparity, because the free market is dictating that oil makes money. It's not dictating that, you know, alternative biofuels make money. So I just interviewed a woman, and I think her piece is going to go live this coming Monday, Dr. Frances Arnold, who is a professor at Caltech. She's a fascinating woman.
what are the two of you wearing in this video?
I don't remember.
I just wanted to be the first to ask. I'm sorry. I had to...
And
what did she say?
And she's, she just won the Obama, oh God, what's it called? He in person awarded her the medal for something medal for technology and innovation. It's like a really big prize for some work she's done. She was the first woman ever to win the Draper Prize in engineering. She's like a really big deal. And she basically has developed this way, and a lot of people are piggybacking it now. They call it directed evolution. She forces evolution of organisms to have certain properties. Yeah. And so she has forced yeast to make isobutanol instead of ethanol. Yeast naturally makes ethanol, but now she's forced it to make isobutanol. And isobutanol is only a few carbons away. It's easy for them to make in super large quantities. But as it is right now, you wouldn't even have to change your gas tank. You can just put it straight in your gas tank and run. Like isobutanol is this... and you can make it in vats.
So someone's going to buy this idea and then bury it, right?
She has a big company. The nice thing is she owns her own company. She has all these patents, and she's a warrior for this. She thinks it's important. But can it compete in a free market? Can that compete? Of course not.
No, someone will buy it and bury it.
No, you have to have the federal government going, and that's why they do it. Here's your award for being fucking awesome. Let's help figure out how to get this into people's gas tanks. It's important.
It is. And then, but also eliminating the gas tank is also important as well. It would be nice if a fraction of that funding could go towards something that's clean and infinite, like the sun.
Well, and that's basically, this is a clean and infinite renewable energy source.
And it burns clean?
It burns clean. I think so. Okay. I should look into that more.
Well, no. We'll find out.
But yeah, it might.
Hey, we'll find out. We'll choke on it or something else in the very near future.
But we also have to think about the big picture, I really want a Tesla. That's my dream car, is the new Model S. I am obsessed. And yes, there is no exhaust pipe. There's nothing coming out of this. It's a fully electric car, but still, it's not good for the environment to make those
giant lithium-ion batteries, mines.
We're still not having just like a car, the car that runs on water, man. That hasn't happened yet. So it's out there. But sure, I think, again, to answer your question, the government has to hold the greedy corporatist hand sometimes to make sure that this shit gets done.
Well, then getting back to the brain madness. Mapping the brain, that's one thing. What is exciting you right now? Do you throw a lab coat and a stethoscope on a daily basis?
No.
Are you just doing HuffPo videos and writing, or what's your day to day now?
Yeah. So like I said, I have a master's degree in neurobiology. So I did an undergrad thing in psychology and philosophy, did a thesis there, studied visual impairment and blindness, studied kind of neuropsych deficits in people with visual impairment and blindness. And then I did my master's in neurobiology, and there I worked in a cell culture facility, and I developed new techniques for dissecting out certain parts of the brain so that we could do research on Parkinson's disease and a lot of electrophysiology, which is recording electrical activity in the brain. We used mice. And then I started a PhD in New York, but I never finished. And there I was doing a little bit of research into neurogenesis. So birds make new neurons throughout their lives. And so we were studying birds to kind of understand the process of that, because we can't.
We don't, right?
We don't, except in very specific regions like the hippocampus and the nasal epithelium. So that's what I was researching then. And then I left to come to LA and to start doing science communication. So I don't actively do any research anymore, but I am always learn. The cool thing is that since I'm out of the lab now, I can learn about like this cool thing that's happening in physics and this crazy thing that's happening in chemistry when I never would have been exposed to that before. And of course, I do miss kind of being in the thick of it.
Sure.
But at least that training that I got, I think, has really helped me so that I can read a scientific journal article and know what the hell they're talking about.
Right. You're an informed advocate now. And you can broadcast knowledge and educate across a wide array instead of just focusing on that one thing that you're stuck in a lab doing.
Exactly.
As well.
And instead of really just focusing on my classroom, because that was ultimately the decision that I made. I found myself wanting to be in my classrooms teaching over wanting to be at the bench doing science. And so I was like, maybe I'm not cut out, but maybe I'm not to be a scientist because it's not really what I'm into. But I love teaching. And so this is a way to kind of teach a lot more people.
Well, learn us, please. Drop some science, drop some bombs here. What? What is exciting you in the space? If it's not brains or if it's not bodies, like what is getting you, what is getting you going?
Well, I'm always really interested in, like what's on the cutting edge, like what's really new, what's happening out there. But I also feel kind of an obligation to retell stories that I feel like maybe are sort of old stories, but that I noticed that the general public has never heard before. So, and things that, you know, we are kind of morbidly curious about. Like I just did a piece, my piece that went live on Monday, they go live every Monday, is just about parasites. Because parasites are cool and they're gross. And I wanted to show a bunch of cool, gross pictures of parasites and talk about what they do to you.
Do you talk about salmon? Like I've recently been hearing that salmon is just filled with parasites and that you should not eat raw salmon. It's one of the worst fish to eat.
Really?
I don't. Okay, so here's my weird thing about fish. Right. I heard once somebody asked Sarah Silverman. Sarah said, you know, I don't eat fish. And somebody asked, why don't you eat fish? And she was like, I'm not quoting her exactly, but she's like, I looked at a fish and I go, why the fuck would I eat that? And that's really how I feel about it. Like, what about a fish looks appealing? It smells weird and I've never been into fish. And I get, you know, sushi is like a delicacy or whatever, but I've always felt like if there's like a health mandate that pregnant women shouldn't eat something,
right?
Maybe I shouldn't eat it either.
Right. Well, and now you also had the story, we'll get to parasites, but you also had the story about the fish in Japan.
Yes, fish in Japan.
I mean, now it's a mandate that pretty much nobody should be eating fish.
The radiation levels are so high after
2,500 times the legal limit of radioactivity for human consumption.
It's scary.
In one fish that was found, and that level is 10 times higher than the same fish in this fish caught in the same area last August.
Yeah. It's spreading. It's getting worse. You know, I don't know if there's still a leak or if it's just that it's leaching more into the ocean. It's getting farther across the Pacific. But regardless, radioactivity, it's how it works. There's a specific half-life of decay and it takes a while.
Right.
You know? And so, first of all, that scares me. I know that we get a large percentage of our consumer seafood from Japan. Mm-hmm. Japanese fishermen feed a lot of people worldwide. So that's super scary. You can get parasites from eating uncooked meat. Fish is meat, you know? And so the common ways for people to get parasites are from undercooked pork, beef, fish, whatever. There are also a lot of the parasites that I talk about in this video really don't affect most of us here in America, in like a first world country where we have
what's
good
like the most gnarly parasite? What's the one that's going to just fuck you up? Like I've seen ones, well, maybe they're not parasites, but I've seen the ones that take over a worm or like a bug and then they grow, like the zombie ones, the zombie parasites,
sure.
and they grow out of their skull. What's the one for human beings that is like, this is the one you don't want to get?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things like, okay, so obviously there's a protozoan that can infect you that is carried by the Anopheles mosquito, and that causes malaria. So that might not be the most gnarly, but it's the most prevalent and it's the most deadly. Like the most people die from this protozoan because malaria is everywhere. Grossly in America, the most common parasite is It's trichinosis is the disease. It's actually an STD. We never think about it, but it's like really common.
What's the symptoms? Yeah, please tell me.
It's like guys.
I mean, he's been itching all week.
Guys don't usually have symptoms, but girls get like itchy. And
really?
Yeah, it's a.
And so
it's
just
a protozoan. You can take pills for it. I guess.
So they have a cure for that. So we're good.
Cure, yeah.
When are they going to cure the rest of them? When are we ever going to get to like weapons-free, condoms-free fucking?
Yeah, no, never. I mean, like
Come
honestly,
on,
I did a piece recently about gonorrhea. Like gonorrhea is getting really fucking scary.
Yeah, there's some like bacteria or what is it, antibiotic resistant strains now or something like that, or
pretty much all gonorrhea is antibiotic. There's like
really?
There's one antibiotic left that works on gonorrhea. One.
What is it? Please don't be acillin.
I can't remember what it's called. It's in the piece. Are you allergic to all cillins?
Yeah. Amoxicillin, penicillin.
Yeah. Well, amoxicillin, penicillin are really close. I'm allergic to sulfa drugs, so we would hope that it's
sulfa.
Sulfa, yeah, it's like a drug class. They give me like a measles type reaction.
Oh,
it's
Jesus.
like the common.
That's what happens with Cillins for me.
Yeah. But I'm actually on an like a super crazy amoxicillin right now. It's called Augmentin. It's like part amoxicillin, part some sort of enzyme disruptor for the bugs, but it's 875 milligram pills. These pills are almost a gram.
They're size of a baby's fist.
I know, they're so big.
What did you get, if I may?
Milk.
What the hell happened at this Olive Garden?
I have a sinus infection. It's
he was asymptomatic. He didn't know. Don't blame him.
I thought it was an ingrown hair.
It happens.
You know what? I actually, not to get super gross, but speaking of, I thought it was an ingrown hair, which sounds really gross. I actually, a few years ago, had MRSA. I had methicillin-resistant staph. Have you heard? This is the superbug. Like the one that
No.
most
How do you
people
get
think of.
that?
There's
Were you
two
like
types.
nuzzling somebody's bed sores, or
No,
I don't know,
no,
is that,
but that is a common. So there's two types. There's hospital acquired and there's community acquired. Hospital acquired MRSA tends to be targeting more like only old and young.
Yeah,
it tends to be a little
senior
more
citizens,
deadly. But it's like, yeah, you get it because you have open sores or like you have catheters. Or
and you
whatever.
got the kind that you get from
I got
just
community
dipping
acquired.
yourself into a YMCA spa for 3 minutes.
Exactly. Like I was living in New York. That's when I got it. And my roommate was like a personal trainer. And I'm pretty sure, we got it from the gym or something. And it was like in my armpit. Again,
Oh, God.
thought it was an ingrown hair or something.
What
And
kind
it
of
was
sex do you have?
so painful. MRSA's no joke. So if you have a spider, if it looks like a spider bite,
Right.
but it's getting worse and it like hurts, it doesn't just itch, but it hurts, like you should probably see a dermatologist. You can take care of MRSA, no problem, as long as it's a skin and soft tissue infection. It's really not a big deal, but it is resistant to the penicillin and amoxicillin types of drugs. So what they'll do, it sounds super gross, but I like gross, it's fun, is they'll like lance it and they'll test it against different antibiotics in petri dishes first so they can figure out which one actually works.
So they don't have to just give you 3
Exactly.
different cycles of it and go, well, you just carpet bombed your body. Hope
And
it
that
works out.
sometimes that's what happened to me. I was on antibiotics for 2 months because
Oh.
every time I would start a new one, I would either be allergic
Right.
or I'd have a reaction to it. So, and 2 months kills you.
Yeah, well,
just
now,
decimates
and
you
some
on
people will say,
antibiotics.
well, if you're on the antibiotics now, you got to take probiotics to get them back in your stomach, and you have to spend $400 on them at Whole Foods. Do you subscribe to any of that?
I do try my best to just eat really well, to drink a lot of water, to eat a lot of yogurt with active cultures, and
But is the science in on taking something like a dried powdery probiotic?
I mean,
or-
no. I mean, but the science isn't even in on vitamin C, so it's really
Right.
difficult because these things like just haven't been fully studied, and so it's.
But the science is in on Hep C, and Brian is
No.
fucked. Sorry, bro. No Cillins for you. Can you pull up the Japanese ice cream video? I want to, because I feel like
Japanese ice cream.
Yeah, I just want to get your take on this.
Okay.
I discovered this video today. I'm sure it's been going around for a little while now, but this was my first venture into it. Are you into ice cream or desserts or Japanese culture at all?
Okay.
Great.
All right, take it.
Great. I love that you're game. You can take a peek here if you'd like. So these, you guys can search for this. Well, I don't want to spoil it by saying what the title is, but you'll see it soon.
Looks so good. Matcha latte aji.
These are two female video blogger types in Japan. They're going through some ice cream stuff. You can jump to the middle of it.
Okay.
They pick up a little snack from the convenience store. It's Japanese condom ice cream. It is ice cream packaged inside of a condom. And in order to actually get it out, you have to cut the reservoir tip of the condom to get to it.
Wait, does it have like spermicidal lube on
Oh,
it?
you missed that. You literally missed the money shot. You got to back up a bit.
Damn it.
No, it doesn't have any like.
Oh God.
So I have some here. Would you like to try?
I made it in my car.
I made a batch.
in my Subaru.
It's
all over her laptop.
Yeah, she got it all over the place. It got all over the home row.
And this is like a real thing.
This is a real thing. It's Japanese condom ice cream.
It's all over her.
It's all over her panty thighs and all that stuff. Yeah.
She's got
It's
chlamydia.
Japanese sex culture is
I
so
love.
weird.
Well, should we pull up 10r.swf? Are we gonna get booted off Ustream if we do?
I don't know.
Is it
Maybe we should
like-
play it small.
No, if we're
What
gonna
is
play it.
it?
Just play it.
All
Well,
right.
there's okay. So 10r.swf. It's a Flash animation file.
Okay.
I've had it on my desktop for ages, and I just never thought to play it or bringing in. But this reminded me of Japanese sex culture, and this is a very catchy song set to a music video that is inspirational.
Okay.
And it's just fun to watch.
Okay.
Let's pull it up. If you're watching the video of this anywhere near work or planning to
It's
get
a
a job,
cartoon. It's anime. It's art.
no, close the browser immediately. But this is 10r.swf. Here we go. How catchy is that?
It's all it does.
I don't know if those are parasites flying
yeah,
at her
is that
head.
candy? It's like a candy and then a spider.
The candy and a spider, but now a lobster is doing her from behind while dolphins.
Hey, dolphins.
Yeah, dolphins are in the background there. Now it looks like a competition between two dogs, or
Do you know what this looks like to me? Is like my favorite Wii game.
Yes.
It looks like
it looks like WarioWare, right?
Yeah,
it looks like WarioWare minigames,
It
but
really
with
does.
way more dicks and cum.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
that's true. Yeah.
Which they need. If they want me to buy a Wii U, they need to get. Now she's flying in a rocket, but the dildo in her butt is giving her a nitro boost.
Yeah,
I mean,
she
that
doesn't
is.
look happy either, does she?
I think she looks like she's
She kinda
just
looks like she's
pure
in
joy
pain.
and pure bliss.
Oh, I don't want to do that one.
Oh wait, are you skipping away from the ones that look more phallic?
Some of them are just too ridiculous.
By the way, if you haven't watched it, 10r.swf, you can find it. It goes on for like 10 minutes. It is a brilliant.
So wait, is this traditionally Japanese, or is this like an American thing trying to emulate
You know, I
Japanese?
don't.
Look at all the little lickies. Lick, 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 lick.
I'm sorry.
It is kind of like,
It's a video. Like they've got like press A and press this and press that.
it's
What?
kind of like happy though, and
It's fun.
And
You keep cutting away from it, and
sweet.
it's so good. I want to just see the golfing one. There's you got to hang in there until the golf one. There it is. It is. The monkeys fly from an island to get a hole in one in her butt. God bless you, Japan. I'm sorry you're radiated, but I love you.
And to find that, it's 10r.swf.
SWF. It's a Flash animation file. If you download it and you're like, I can't open it, click and drag it into your browser
like that
and
one.
stop whining. It's great. I'm sorry. I always like to take a little media break, and
Yeah,
that
why
was
not?
what I brought to
No,
the party
that's
today.
enjoyable.
Are there any videos that are you like into crazy weird web videos, or let's get to the vices. Let's get to the dark side. Let's get to the secret.
You know,
What's
I'm-
going on in
I'm
there?
I'm not into crazy weird stuff. I'm
You on
into
my
like,
free cams and yelling things at women on there?
No.
No.
Chatterbait,
I had
chatterbait, and
so
chatterbait.
much
Yeah,
fun with that.
I don't even know what you guys
Last
are
Friday,
talking about.
so there's
right
this website that Brian turned me on to called My Free Cams, where you go there and it's like hundreds of girls on webcams carnival barking for tokens. They're like, "Hey baby, for 10 tokens, I'll put this porcelain figurine in my butthole. But for
Why?
40, I'll do it in private for you."
But why?
Because there's a lot of money to be made by doing it, I guess.
Do they really
And-
make that much money?
Yes,
Yeah,
they
some
do.
of them do.
They
Certainly.
make a lot of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And you know what? It beats podcasting.
Yeah.
I can attest. But like I go on there and say weird shit, and that's like why I'm not allowed to do it. I got yelled at by my
Yeah.
girlfriend because it started off very entertaining, and then people were commenting like on this woman's feet, and I would tell her like, "Those are amazing. I want to cut them off and put them in a Ziploc bag
Yeah,
and store them in
yeah.
my freezer, and then take them out every now and then and rub
And
your
then,
cold
like, the
feet against
FBI
my
came to
daughter's
your
face."
door.
Well, no, it gets weird because they still think I'm serious,
Sure.
and so they go, "Baby, you'll never be cold with me." For 20 tokens, I'll let you do whatever you want to my feet. And I'm like, oh my God, now I feel even worse about what's
Sure,
happening. See,
yeah.
this is live right now. This is someone on their webcam
And see if you-
teasing their hair and playing
Oh my
around.
God.
And
Yeah, I see the targeted ad right there.
no, that's
no.
That's because Brian frequents this so much they made an Olive Garden graphic for
Yeah,
him.
you
Oh
just
my
put
God, that's so
colon
funny.
and then type in Olive Garden.
But I mean, what's going on when you're not doing science?
I
and
am
writing
not doing
sciencey
this.
videos? I'm
I'll
assuming
tell
you're
you
not. I didn't mean to imply that you're my free camming. I'm sorry.
No, I'm not.
What are the darker corners of the mind?
Oh God,
And
I'm so boring. This is going to be
I don't
such a
buy that at all.
letdown for people.
You play a lot of catchphrase, apples to apples. What do you do? Jenga, street Jenga.
I play solitaire.
No.
That's like so lame. I
Really?
actually play solitaire on my phone.
Well, you
Like a
travel so
loser.
much. Every time I talk to you, you're
I know
you're
I
out
do
of
travel
town.
a lot. I travel a lot. I play Words with Friends still. Like I'm all over.
Boy, the seedy side of
Right.
Cara Santa Maria.
So let's see. I live at home alone with my dog Killer, and I watch.
Is Killer a small dog or a large dog?
Killer's a small dog, and
Okay.
he's like ironically named.
Got it.
I watch a lot of documentaries. And I work just a lot. So I do one video a week at HuffPost. So this is my full-time salaried job. So it's like, standard 40 hours a week, whatever. There's not really a prescribed time when I'm at work. I probably work a lot more than that. But I also, podcast a lot. I just did a show for the Weather Channel called Hacking the Planet. So that airs actually on February 28th.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So
What is that about?
Chemtrails?
What do we got there?
It's 6
Yeah.
episodes. What did you just say?
Is it about chemtrails?
No.
Fucking government, man.
Seed in
They're
the
spraying
clouds.
stuff all over us, man.
Well, actually, it kind of is. It's kind of not. It's 6 episodes, and each episode is a different weather phenomenon. So yes,
Oh.
one of them is like thunderstorms. One of them is well, I guess lightning strikes. One of them is hurricanes. One's tornadoes, volcanoes, and I'm like the co-host of it. John Rennie is the host. He used to be the editor in chief of Scientific American for about I think 20 years, 15, 20 years. And then Brian Mallow, the science comedian, he's super funny. You can look him up online. And myself are kind of his co-hosts. And he
Nobody's
runs...
funnier than Brian. I just want to make sure everybody knows that.
Who's this guy?
Nobody's funnier than Brian. And why are you bringing up other dudes
Yeah,
with us?
what's
What's
up
the
with
thing? What are you
these
trying to make
dudes?
us jealous or insecure?
Rude.
Why don't you just talk about his abs?
Yes.
Yeah, I bet they're
That's-
rippled. I'd love to have them glistening and dripping on me in a sweaty way. I love him too. Brian Mallow.
Brian, I'm so sorry.
No, of course. Yeah, we're sorry too, Brian, that you can't be here because you're so awesome and we're not.
He is pretty awesome, actually. So the three of us, I guess he checks in with us. We're mostly like webcam chatting with him and telling him, oh, go check out this lab in this state. And they're studying this way to cool the ocean surface to try and lower the risk of a hurricane. So it's all about literally how private industry and the government are trying to figure out how to hack the planet. Is it a good idea? What are the unintended consequences? And, do we need to be worrying about doing this? Because with global climate change, we're seeing, worse storms, more frequent storms. Blah,
You mean
blah.
global warming?
Yes, global warming.
No, I like that it's global climate change because for the longest time, I mean, that was the crux of anybody who didn't want to admit it or believe in it. That was their argument
it's
was
not warming.
It's fucking
Always.
cold as shit, bro.
Exactly.
Record wind chill.
Right, 'cause they
I
would-
guess your science is bullshit.
Yeah, they don't understand the difference between the word climate and weather. I think it's a big problem.
So now, I mean, are we fucked?
yes.
Are we?
No, we really are.
Is it too late?
I honestly struggle with whether or not I, as an adult woman, like I'm 29, I'll be 30 this year.
Right.
I don't know if I want to have children.
With me specifically, or in general?
Hey, dude.
Or
Brian, you're going to be there too.
I want to have kids with Brian.
Who's
Of course.
the-
Who
of
doesn't want to have
course.
kids with Brian?
Damn it!
I have all the toys already.
Wait, you mean to make a child or to play with one?
No.
No,
both.
he already watches all the Saturday morning cartoons.
right.
Yeah,
He's
no,
on
he
it.
knows SpongeBob in and out.
Exactly.
No.
No, but really, I don't. And
Because
what's
you
funny
think,
is-
but now, and that means that you think in the next potentially 80 years, the lifespan of your child, that it might become the planet might be uninhabitable, that we might blow ourselves up.
I mean,
that
personally, it's a very stressful time even now. You
Sure.
know, I remember talking to my mom about this once, and my mom's really cool and she's really honest. And I was like, if you were 35 now, she had me when she was 35. Like, if you were 35 right now and you were trying to decide if you wanted to have a kid, like, would you? And she's like, I don't know. It's a different world
Right.
now. And I think economically, things aren't where I would like to see them be. I think that there are I wish that we were more progressive
This
as
is
a
the
nation.
You've seen Idiocracy, have you not?
Yes.
Because this is the beginning of that, when all the fucking smart people are like, you know
Exactly.
what? It might be a little rough and tumble right now. It might
Yeah.
not be the right thing to bring somebody in the world. Someone who has no fucking idea and is driving their monster truck
Yes.
with the exhaust spilling
They're
out
having
the thing,
all the kids.
throwing their wrappers off to
And-
off the side of the highway. They are fucking like mad
Yes,
right now.
and that's the argument that my friends will say when I say I don't know if I want to have kids and I don't want to contribute to the global population problem. And I mean I'd probably rather adopt. I come from a very adopted family. I'm biological and my older sister's biological, but I have 2 adopted sisters and 3 adopted brothers.
But you saw how your parents love them less.
Let me rub it around the outside for science.
Wow. See, people like Brian are driving their pickup trucks around, throwing their burger wrappers out the
Look
door.
at him. He's like hiding.
having-
He's hiding from us now.
Brian, what is going on, Brian? Let's get to the heart of this.
just kidding.
Brian, what's going on?
Nothing. Just kidding.
Brian,
kidding.
would you bring a child into the world right now?
I didn't really want one for a while, but I don't think it's as bad. Like, I think it's just we know too much now. I think we have too much information. Back then, we didn't have the internet. We're not getting forced and scared every second of our life.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm a pretty reasonable person. Like, I actually let the science inform my decisions. I don't think that I'm, like, because of scaremongering, I'm really thinking about it. And the truth be told, I would adopt a child, I think, because there are kids who don't have families, but like we have a fucking global population crisis right now. And I think that as responsible, mature adults, one thing that we could all do, and honestly, the only argument for making lots of babies is a religious one.
Yeah, but your smart juice isn't going to be in these kids.
That's what my friends will always
Yeah,
say.
you got to
It's like,
pass down those ones and zeros.
Yeah.
But you know what? You
got to nature that shit. You can't nurture that. Everybody knows that.
You really
Those
don't.
kids are gonna hate you.
You
They're
really?
gonna punch themselves,
There's
self-mutilate,
no guarantee that
slam their
2
heads in the
smart
walls.
people are going to have a smart kid.
No, that's why you have to have one somewhat retarded one.
Yeah, you got to
First.
balance it out.
Oh, that sounds like a great
the
plan.
median intelligence should be. Why am I agreeing with you right now? Like, I'm trying to do the right thing by being like, yeah, of course, because there is no wrong answer in this room. There's often a wrong answer in this room, Brian.
Yes.
God.
And in science, there's often a
So
wrong
your friends
answer.
are trying to convince you to have kids, and you're still out because you believe the science is on that level that like holy shit in the next 80 years we could be fucked. What's it going to be? Is it going to be?
I mean,
is it
we are
climate
fucked
change?
already with climate change.
Is it we're going to nuke each other?
We've gone beyond the 2-degree threshold that a lot of people are really afraid of. If we cut all carbon emissions right now, the climate would continue to change. The CO2 levels would continue to rise. And we're already seeing, catastrophe in the Arctic. We're seeing whole regions that are like low-lying regions that are underwater. And this is mostly affecting impoverished areas, and we're the last to notice here in America because we're really insulated and because we're on high ground.
Because we're number one. USA! USA! USA!
Yeah, we're number one in defense spending.
I know. We are not number one in anything anymore. And I love that it's so and you're labeled un-American for pointing that out.
I know. Like, the most patriotic thing you can do is to, like, question your government and to work really hard to make sure that you elect officials that can make good decisions that represent you. And people kind of look at you like you're not a patriot, which patriot in many, many countries and in many other languages is, like, a bad word. Like, patriot is kind of dangerous. To have a sense of nationalistic pride in spite of evidence is not a good thing.
Right.
But here it's like, yeah, if you're not waving the flag and saying, I blindly believe that anything that we can do to make sure that we're number one is what we should do. I mean, it's scary. Like,
but the flip side of that is, don't you like? Do you care about this country? Do you?
Of course,
you like this
do.
country?
I don't want.
Then why aren't you popping out some red, white, and blue children and raising them to be patriots? That's your duty.
My duty is to educate people so that we can improve science literacy in this country. I think that probably has more of a lasting effect.
I'm gonna give you a touche on that one.
Sure,
I'm gonna agree with you.
yeah.
So what is the first of all? I know we've been here an hour or so I'm gonna let you go, but I do want to tell everybody out there.
Sad.
Well, then fuck it. We're gonna keep going.
We can go a little longer.
Well, this was well, that's normally the request, but I finish when I need to, and I'm sorry. There will be crying afterwards, and you'll be like, really, that's it? And yeah, that's
Thanks,
speaking of
man.
crying, we'll get to crying actually.
Okay.
If you have what I was going to say, if you have questions or comments, not about a fucking lip piercing, internet,
Seriously.
tweet them to me or Redban, K Pereira, Pereira, or at Redban. Tweet us your questions, and we will get to those at the very end as we wrap up. But let's get to tears for a second as we talk about crying.
Okay.
Because you recently had a video about that, which I thought was fascinating. There are different types of tears.
Yeah, it's so funny. I was in Palm Springs with some girlfriends bitching about boys. We took like a let's bitch about boys weekend.
Girls trip. What were you bitching about? We'll
Just
get back to the tears. This is going to be the good stuff.
Awfulness.
What about? Who's being awful to you? Give me his name, and you know what? I'll fucking punch him. And he's probably bigger than me because I'm a tiny boy, so what I'll do is I'll pay somebody much larger than me to go punch him.
Awesome.
Who's the man?
No, nobody's
What did he do to you? How did he
nobody's
break
being
your
awful
heart?
now.
Why did he break your heart?
I don't know. He's a dick.
Why is he such a dick?
He's a dick.
What did he cheat? He cheated. He did.
No.
No, but he cheated on you emotionally, and that's even worse.
Maybe. He wasn't my boyfriend.
Oh, he was.
So-
This was a casual.
Yeah.
You guys were both on Christian Mingle. You liked him. He liked you. You tossed him a wink. He tossed you a wink, and then what happened?
We traded ichthus necklaces. But yeah, so all of the girls were dealing with varying levels of relationship drama, and we decided to go to Palm Springs. Me and 3 of my girlfriends.
Parker Palms. Where'd you guys go?
Oh, I don't remember the name of the place, but it
Oh.
was awesome. There's only like 6 units.
Oh, nice.
Very private, the
Handful
nice,
of dudes, got
we
it.
We were in Desert Hot Springs.
Oh, very nice.
Which I
Okay.
love.
All right. So you go out there. You're gabbing with the girls.
For Gavin. And I'm talking about a piece that I'm coming up with. And actually, my friend Rachel decided, or she recommended that I do a piece. She's like, I've always wondered, like, I understand if I get poked in the eye, why, like, liquid, I would have a reaction. She was like, but why is it that when I'm in pain, like when I'm very sad, water comes out of my eyes?
Right. I get the splinters and the dust out of your eye or whatever just hit you, flush that out. But yeah, you
and
gotta.
I was like, that's a really good question. I have no idea. And so I started researching, and it seems to be the case that humans are the only animal that cry emotional tears. And we know this because emotional tears actually have a different kind of biochemical makeup.
They're filled with like more proteins than regular tears, right?
They have more proteins. They have more like neurotransmitter in them. And so, there have been kind of hypotheses that you're actually relieving stress that way. I think that's kind of bullshit because it's a negligible amount, and honestly, it's not the buildup of stress hormones that makes you feel stressed. You being stressed builds up stress.
Builds up those,
yeah,
right.
so it's kind of, I don't know. I don't think that's a really valid way to look at it, but it does seem to be the case that we evolve this as like evolutionarily. We evolve it as a signal because, language does set us apart, but we haven't always had language as a species. So early on, we would have to communicate in other ways, and communicating through tears really is a very easy way to show somebody who's close to you that you are vulnerable, that you need help, that you're in pain, that something is wrong.
Right.
And also
a great distress signal. And
Exactly.
there was, even in your video, there was the study where, photos of like a girl crying were shown, and then that girl with the tears digitally removed were shown. And people were like, oh, well, the one with the tear is clearly more sad, or something's wrong. And there was the one
like
tiny little visual clue that
yes,
you needed.
A much stronger emotional response to those pictures. And also somebody argued, and of course this is the thing about evolutionary psychology, sometimes there's strong science to support it, and sometimes it's really just theoretical, hypothetical, and we're not sure, but kind of argued that tears are also very hard to see from a distance. And so it may be a way that you could communicate to your friends, maybe your own tribe, that you're vulnerable, but not show an enemy like across the because they wouldn't be able to
They wouldn't see you crying on the battlefield because you got a spear in your thigh.
Exactly.
But your buddies would know, oh, that shit hurts.
Yeah, like we see the limpy gazelle and go, that's the weak one, and they can pick it because it's really obvious, but maybe the one who's crying, like we can't really tell.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, but animals don't cry, apparently. I mean, we talk about crocodile
Wait, so then
tears.
Live was full of shit? Because they wrote that song Dolphins Cry.
No.
What about like when you leave your dog home, by
do-
itself, and then you come home and it's all crying?
Well, they show emotion, obviously. And this is what's so annoying is that when I did this piece, all these people were like, who are you to say that dogs don't feel? And I was
Right.
like, when the fuck did I say that? Like, they obviously show emotion, but they don't physically cry tears of emotion.
Yeah, when you come home, like if I leave my dog, my old dog, if I leave my old dog in a kennel for say like 3 days.
Yeah, he has all those tear stains.
Yeah, tons of tear stains.
It's because when you leave him at the border, they're not. It's because you groom your dog. Like
No,
you love your dog, and you're probably always wiping his eyes.
It's because they piped Sarah McLachlan music into that kennel, so all the dogs know their end is near if the owners don't return.
I do notice that Killer's eyes are like gunkier when I leave him, but it's because I'm constantly like wiping them and making sure that he looks really clean. Little dogs have like a tear stain problem.
Sure,
That's
yeah.
But yeah, dogs are always tearing up. It's just that we like are grooming them.
Not me. I don't groom my dog.
You don't groom
But
your
you're.
dog?
It was.
You don't
is your
have a
dog
dog,
in a
Brian.
cage?
What
Not
the fuck are you
anymore.
talking
I
about?
got rid of it.
Brian has cats.
It was too sad looking.
Yeah, I got rid of it.
It would cry all the
It
time.
says that. I got rid of it. It's like the worst thing.
Well, it was it. It wasn't
I
a
had
thing.
dog.
to-
I
it
got
was a-
rid of it.
Got
Like
rid of
that's so
that
horrible.
thing.
My dog had like a barking problem because he was really stressed, and I'm working on it right now. But my landlord, I remember one time called me. He was like, "I think you might have to get rid of the dog," and I was like, I'm not fucking doing that. Like,
Right.
what? Do you want me to leave? Are you asking me to leave? Like,
How
I
do you know
go
that-
with
wait,
the dog.
How do you know the dog is stressed?
He has really bad separation anxiety. So like he's really good.
That's like really hard to work
it's
on.
so hard to work on.
You have to like leave for 5 minutes at a time and
I
then come
know.
back and give a treat and,
he's
reward and all this
3.
stuff.
It's
and-
not
yeah.
like he's not young anymore. I mean, he's young, but I'm working with a trainer, or actually with a person who is getting her PhD in canine cognition, which is really cool. And she's given me all these great tricks. Like one thing that she told me is that a big reason that that there's so much emotional distress is that he equates me with doing things. So when I
Sure.
leave, he's just really bored. And
Right.
that's why he's like howling and crying at the door. So now I leave him things to do. Like I leave him a Kong stuffed with frozen
with like a
peanut
treat
butter.
or something like that. Give him a puzzle.
Yeah.
There's puzzle toys for
There's
dogs
puzzle toys.
too.
And
yeah.
now I've also completely gotten him out of eating out of a bowl because she told me that she's like, no dog should eat out of a bowl. First of all, it doesn't show them the value of food because it's just always there.
Mm-hmm.
And second of all, dogs are natural foragers. Like they want to work for it. And so I don't have a bowl anymore. I just have a water dispenser, and then I feed him out of these puzzle toys so that it takes him all day to knock the kibble out, and it's
Right.
a whole thing. So
That's
it keeps him
fascinating.
entertained while I'm gone. And I think the barking, I mean, I do have to have him in a bark collar too because it's that bad. I don't have him in a shock collar, but it's like one that vibrates his vocal cords because the spray collar, the one that sprays citronella in his face, I would put him in it and fill it up. I'd put him in, come home and it'd be empty.
Empty and he's
It's
licking
just like
his
not
chops.
deterring
yeah.
him at all.
Meanwhile, it's all over your drapes and couch and everywhere. else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, drapes.
It's
'Cause
always
I have drapes.
I don't. Do you? I thought all ladies
Do
have
people have
drapes.
drapes?
All
Is that a
ladies do.
thing?
It's biological.
Oh, well, yeah, we do have those
Yeah, no,
drapes.
there was always distress with like I had to actually start putting like the Skippy inside of like a butter container or mixing it up because whenever that peanut butter would come out, the dog would immediately start shaking and shuddering, and you'd see the dog tears, and
Yeah.
so you have to kind of switch it up a little bit.
So what I do is I bought 2 Kongs longs and I stuff them with peanut butter and keep them in the freezer. So he doesn't see me prepping them. I like prep them whenever he's not, paying attention or whatever. And so just when I'm leaving at night and I know he's going to be extra stressed, I'll just throw a frozen one down because then it'll last like 3 hours.
Oh,
Because
okay.
he'd clean it out too fast.
Very different. Very different. Mine was because I was putting it directly on my testicles after I got it out of the cabinet.
And that was very
the
exciting
dog
for
was
him.
very excited. And then when
Yeah.
we stopped doing that,
Yeah.
it was very I had to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Is what I had to do.
You had to get rid of the
I
dog?
had to get rid of it.
The dog, the testicles, or the peanut butter?
All of the above.
Okay. Them.
Someone wants to know if you could beat Neil deGrasse Tyson in a zero gravity fist fight. And I think that is the greatest question I've ever read in my life.
I don't think. Well, in zero G, you could still fight. It's just what happens is that, like, if I punched him or he punched me, we would just fall backward.
Right.
Like, oh, sorry, I just went away from the microphone. But also, I'd never get in a fist fight with Neil deGrasse Tyson because he's a good friend of mine.
No, bullshit. You guys
No, he's
are
like
at each other's
actually a good
throats.
friend of mine. We tight.
Oh, shit. All right.
Yeah, I love Neil.
Who's streeter? Who's more street?
Neil is totally more street than I am.
I love the photos of him from like the 60s or 70s and like
Seriously.
Astro pants on the
He's
dance
like-
floor with
he's
the
like from the
Afro-
Bronx.
He's
I think.
amazing.
I mean, he's a baller. But I've known him really since I first started doing this, and he's always been a big supporter of me. He's always been a big supporter of my career. I've interviewed him a bunch of times. I've been on Star Talk a bunch of times, and we do hang. I mean, he's super busy right now with Cosmos and everything. But when he's in town, we usually go out for a burger or something. When I'm in New York, we'll go out for coffee. So yeah, he's super awesome guy.
So you're saying you'd win in a fist fight. Got it. I just want to give them something that they can put. Here's an interesting one. Beezy Smeezy. Brian C., who did the Pointless logo. Thank you, Brian, by the way. Awesome dude. Great graphic designer. Hire him. He says, are you in the same boat as Sam Harris about free will being non-existent?
Oh, it's that's a really complicated issue. I really respect Sam Harris. I really respect a lot of his writings. I don't
Sounds
always,
like a big no to me.
yeah, I don't always agree with Sam, just like I didn't always agree with Hitch before he died. And I mean, I generally agree with Dawkins, but not always with his approach. I think that the free will argument is kind of null and void because what happens is that a lot of people think that what we're describing is religious determinism, but what we're really describing is determinism from a neuropsychiatric perspective. So,
Meaning I caught 3 of those words.
It's
I
probably
pretended I
something-
knew 5 of them, and I just held up 4 when I said 5. So bear with me.
It's probably something that would take a little longer to have a conversation. I did a panel with Jennifer Wheelette at the Festival of Books, the LA Festival of Books last year, and we talked about free will the whole time. And I was on it with, I think, another neuroscientist and a physicist. Jennifer Wheelette is a popular science writer who wrote Cocktail Party Physics, and her husband, Sean Carroll, is a professor at Caltech who is also a popular science writer, and he wrote From Eternity to Here, which is a book about time, and he also recently wrote a book about the Higgs boson. I interviewed him for my series Talk Nerdy to Me. You can find it on the page about time. I asked him, what is time? And we talk a little bit about this free will argument, and he argues that at the kind of quantum level, time... So matter is time reversal invariant, which I know you have to kind of break that down a little bit. At the macro level of physics, there's an arrow of time, which means that tomorrow is before today, obviously. There's a future and there's a past.
Right.
We can't change the past and we can't foresee the future. There's an arrow of time. But when you get down to the quantum level, things get wonky, as we all know in physics, and things aren't. They're time reversal invariant, meaning that changes can, like, there's no link to time. There's kind of not necessarily a before or after. And so he uses this as an argument to say that ultimately we may be saying that there's no free will at the quantum level. But he also says there's no way that we, neurologically speaking, could hold. There's no way that any one person could know everything there is to know about the universe.
Right.
So it's a moot point. Like, I can't. So even if, my brain doing one thing would ultimately lead to my brain doing something else, the fact that I don't have conscious awareness of it means that I still have free will. Like, I think of free will more as a philosophical argument than a deterministic kind of action to action to action argument. So personally, again, I don't know why people get into the nitty-gritty of free will, because we have to make decisions still in life. We're only aware of so much, like our brains can only pay conscious attention to a small percentage of things.
Sure.
If we were always attending to everything, we wouldn't know what was important. We wouldn't ever be able to make decisions. Our brains aren't operating at their full capacity all of the time because that's a seizure.
Well, and also because we're in a computer simulation.
Well, there's that
None of this
too.
is real,
Yeah.
right?
So-
We're on
so
some cosmic 486 running in a closet somewhere. Someone
Yeah.
ran a line of code, and this is why we're having this
Yeah, that's
conversation.
Brian's favorite. You know what's so funny is when we did Rogan's podcast and we talked about the simulation, I don't think the piece had come out yet.
No, it was like the
and
next
I had
week.
like just interviewed. So that's another piece on my column on HuffPost Science on Talk Nerdy to Me is this, are we living in a computer simulation? And I interviewed this guy who is studying this, and it's fascinating. I mean, he doesn't really think we are, but he's saying like we can't discount the idea. I have to cough so bad. I'm going to do it.
No, right into the mic. No, come. Oh man, did you get it? Was it wet enough?
Yes, it was wet.
Cole Stalling says this question is for Kara. Thanks,
Yeah.
Kara. Why aren't there more intellectual girls like you out there? Question mark.
Okay. First of all, there are a lot of intellectual girls. I just think a lot of girls don't necessarily wear it on their sleeve. I also think that we live in a culture. I always tell this to my guy friends when they're like, "Oh, I want to meet a good girl," and blah, blah, blah. I'm always like, meet a late bloomer. You want a late bloomer, not an early bloomer. And I really think there's something to be said about this, although I couldn't provide the science to support it. This may just be anecdotal, but it does seem to be the case that a lot of girls who got their periods really early, who got their boobs really early, who started to develop and look very feminine at a young age, got a certain level of male attention. And I'm not just talking about from their peers. I'm talking about like from dad's friends and dad's boss and the
Sure.
guy at the grocery store. And even if it wasn't like overtly pervy, there's still like, you know, it's all happening at a subconscious level. They're a little nicer to you. They're whatever. And you don't really know why.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so a lot
Now
of
you got
girls,
the deep V on today. I'm going to give you a little extra smile and maybe some extra toppings on the McFlurry.
And so exactly. And so there I know plenty of girls like myself. Actually, my friend Crystal, who I just tweeted a link to her TEDx talk, is
I
about
watched
this,
it. Very good.
very good. And
Very great
she's
talk.
freaking beautiful.
Yeah.
She's got
Is
her
she
shit
single?
together. I'm not allowed
What's
to
the
say.
way
I
to
don't-
her heart?
I
How do
don't-
we get one of these late bloomers? What's the secret?
Well,
what are your
that's the
likes
thing.
and dislikes? Is it a long walk on the beach thing? Is it a tandem bicycle?
You
Send
know
her
what
this
it
picture,
is?
Kevin.
Oh yeah, that's a good.
That's
Is that
a good
from?
one. That's a good one.
What is that even from?
You can't
oh,
really
that's
even
from
see her
Player vs.
face.
Pain. Is that from Player vs. Pain?
Yeah.
You look like my friend Max. in
My
that
ass is
picture.
all. What my ass looks like his?
You kind of look like my friend Max.
Is that a good thing or a
actually.
bad thing?
Like my friend Max Lugavere. It's a good thing.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's a good
I'll take
thing.
that. Max, very attractive gentleman. I gotta
He
say,
really is.
One
He's
of the
very
hottest.
attractive.
Huge too.
Yeah.
Just huge.
He is. He's
Girthy,
massive.
like a tuna can. What are okay? So late bloomers.
So,
I
late
think that makes a lot of
I
sense.
was totally a late bloomer. I mean, I'm going to be the first to say, like, I was a cheerleader in high school. I was a gymnast.
You can't be a cheerleader and be a late bloomer.
No, seriously, I was like an athletic cheerleader. Like I started my period the month before I turned 16.
Describe
I was
it.
super
Describe your
hot.
first time.
Where
for us.
was it? And what happened? And how'd you feel about it? What'd you think about it? And where'd you go? And what'd you do? And
I wasn't afraid. All my friends had already gone there. It wasn't one of these.
did you
like,
call them over to watch?
No,
Isn't that a thing you do?
No.
Isn't that, like, don't you have period parties? Don't girls do that? Like you get
No.
together and then you put on zit stickers and cucumber things
What
on
the
your
hell
eyes
are
and you
you
wait for the
talking
period. It's like the blossom, like the
You
blooming
have,
of a
like,
flower.
Really
That's what
weird
happens.
dreams.
Yeah.
I think.
No,
That's what
I've seen Japanese videos about it.
No,
Yeah.
that's never. No, I was like the last of anyone I knew.
It's the end of a sentence, but a period is the beginning of a beautiful tale.
Oh my god.
I'm sorry, I don't know what that was.
And I remember, I look back, I looked like a boy. Like I was flat chested
So hot.
and I was way smaller
So
than all
hot,
my
though.
friends. I was like 4'11" when I was in like 9th and 10th grade. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember hanging out with my best friend Kelly, and she was like hot and she was a year older than me, because that's another thing. I was young in school. You know, I started young. And again, I started college when I was really young, when I was 16.
Mm-hmm.
And so
16 was a big year, starting college and moving into a crack den.
well, yeah, it's the same
It's a
thing.
very
They went
big-
hand in hand.
very big year
But
for
I
you.
remember I would be hanging with Kelly, and we would be like at a party or something, and the boys would be, you know, like interested in Kelly, and they would be like, "Who's this? Your little sister?" Like that was my thing growing up, and it sucked at the time. But honestly, I developed other skills. Maybe there's something intrinsic to who I am and to who girls like me are, that we are fundamentally interested in the way that the world works, that we have kind of more reductionistic, take things apart, notice the anomalies, problem solving kind of brains. But also, I think that certain things need to be fostered in kids. I have two very dear friends who you actually probably know.
Uh-oh. What?
Vinny and Kristen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And they have an amazing little girl
oh my God,
who
so
I'm
good.
obsessed with. And they always are like, stay around and hang out with, I love hanging out with her because they're like, we want her to see that you can grow up to be like cool and smart.
Yes.
And they're raising her to be that
absolutely.
way.
It's like, I was having this conversation with my girlfriend Bria recently, and she was talking about how you reinforce so much that you don't even realize and implant like an image or a perception into a child's brain when you say like, look at her, she's so beautiful. Even at 2 months old, isn't she adorable? Look at him, he's so tough. He's going to be a bruiser. And even those kind of connotations can steer somebody's sexual and gender identity in 1,000 different ways.
Totally. And so when you go, you're so good at this, you're so smart. You did that puzzle so fast, and I'm so proud of you. And also I think that we should be living in a culture too where instead of celebrating getting the right answer, we should be celebrating the journey.
Yes,
like
it's
when
more about
somebody
the process.
goes, when somebody goes, I don't get it right away, because I see this with little kids, they get frustrated and they cry, and then you go, well, the reason is because this part's not working here. But one, oh look, you figured it out. I'm so proud of you for figuring it out. So I mean, I don't know. I've watched
formula. even my niece. I've observed get so worked up over the process of knowing something because I don't know the answer. Well, let's reason our way to the answer.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that notion is so daunting
It's
and
so
so
daunting.
terrifying because you can't be wrong. I'm like, well, you can be.
You can
just
be.
got to go through that process.
And this is a problem with the way that our school system does things. Like when when there's a classroom full of people and the teacher asks a question, the kids raise their hands. We call on the kid who already knows the answer.
Right.
How does that help anybody? We don't call on the kid who doesn't get it. And we don't have that kid come up to the front of the class and work on figuring it out. And the reason we don't do that is because we live in this individualist society where that kid would get bullied, where the other kids in class would go, what an idiot. But instead
that's one of the reasons. We also live in a society where there's 40 kids in a room.
There's 40 kids in a classroom, and we just need to get through the lesson.
And standardized results. We just got to teach them which
there's
bubble
a lot
to
of
fill
problems.
in. Yeah.
But if we had this kid who doesn't get it, knowing you're not alone, they're learning with you. A lot of the other kids in class didn't raise their hands for the same reason. Let's figure it out for them. Then I think if we fostered that mentality and that sensibility, we would see change. But ultimately, when it comes down to that question of why aren't there more girls like you, there are. I really think it's about.
You're not going to find them on RedTube. You're probably not. You got to.
You might not find them in a bar. I mean, that's the thing.
Right.
Maybe you're not finding them in the right place.
You got to go to a place where they sell, meteorite particles and scale models of dinosaurs.
Well, and also maybe you meet a girl at Target. Maybe you meet a girl at the grocery store. We're all people and we do normal people things. I don't go to these meat markety places because it's not my
have
vibe.
you ever given a guy the time of day at the produce section?
Totally.
Someone comes up to you at Albertsons and goes, well, these melons are ripe. How about yours, science lady?
No,
I mean, what
wouldn't work.
Well, what would work? That's why I want to know what's the first line. What do we how does that work?
I think what I'm most attracted to in guys is
Go on.
is
I'm liking it. I mean, what you're saying, they got to look like your friend Max. That's step one. You take that step, and then we're going to put another foot in front of that foot, and we're going to hit step two.
This is really creeping me out.
Where's step two? I have an alto, a baritone. I'm more of a baritone.
You're more of a
I'm definitely
baritone.
like a deep baritone. Yeah. I'm definitely down there.
So I think the things that really attract me in men is for them to just be themselves.
That's it.
I'm really attracted to guys who...
Just don't put on a front.
I'm really attracted to guys who don't fake it, who aren't...
Who's faking anything?
I don't care if they're shy.
I wouldn't fake it. I'm seeming pretty forward right now.
I don't care if they're shy. I don't care if they're...
I'm not running away. I'm right here.
You're right there.
This isn't about me. This is about you. You just want him to be
This is so distracting. Yeah. Honesty. I'm into honest guys. And I'm also into guys who aren't going to be afraid
Sorry, I'm out of the running.
Yeah, exactly.
Good day, everybody. See ya.
I'm also into guys who aren't afraid of the fact that I'm a little crazy. And truth be told, I think a lot of smart people also have a lot of demons. And I think that being willing to
who the fuck isn't
demons,
crazy?
Exactly.
Who isn't crazy? There's no
I don't
normal
want somebody
anymore.
who pretends to not be crazy. Somebody who's like, I got my shit together. No, I don't need to go to therapy. And I like a guy who's like, yeah,
and he's stabbing at his dick with ice picks and crying about his mother for 2 hours.
I don't mind a guy who's like, I'm kind of fucked up, dude, and I got to go to therapy and I take these meds. And not that I'm attracted to broken people necessarily, but I'm attracted to people who I think can empathize with me. I want somebody who has lived a life, who didn't have a silver spoon in their mouth, and who understands what it means to have been through some stuff, and who's experienced pain, who's learned from it, and who's really always trying to better themselves and wants to have a real conversation. Like when it comes to sex, when it comes to love, when it comes to depression, when it comes to frustration, just tell me what's on your mind. Be really open and honest with me. That is the most attractive thing to me. And obviously I want somebody who respects me and who is willing to have a legit conversation, who isn't going to think I'm a dick because I go, I don't believe in God and I think it's kind of crazy that you do and I'm not really attracted to that or whatever. Like, I want to be able to have a real conversation with somebody.
On that note, one final question from David, who I
David.
think is this person. I mean, his Twitter name is Get Down Do You.
Okay.
Why did we evolve to have butt cracks?
What's funny is I did a piece. I did a
That's what he
piece.
asked.
That's a good question.
I did a
great
piece about
question.
why men have nipples.
Oh.
Like
why
that
do?
was, isn't it funny? Because I was like, I remember having a moment in an endocrinology class, talking to my friend Varshana. I mean, like, why do men have nipples? Like, I was so confused because I was thinking of it from an evolutionary perspective. And I just recently did a piece for Darwin Day, celebrating Darwin, and I interviewed this guy, David Quammen, who's a science writer, and he said, Darwin was really obsessed with all these weird questions. Like, he was obsessed with why men have nipples. And I was like, no way, because I just did that piece. And I was stuck in this, we're mammals. We evolved as mammals, which means the female of the species has always had the mammary glands and we've always fed the young. So why would men have ever evolved to have nipples? And then I realized it's not a question of evolution. It's a question of embryology. We're not gender defined until a certain point in our development in the
Right.
womb. We actually develop nipples before the testosterone portion of the SRY gene, like on the Y chromosome, before it kicks up testosterone.
And isn't that like
production.
everybody has everybody has a vagina, but it can turn into a penis?
It's
Everybody
kind
has
of
a
like
penis
that.
and
Yeah,
then it
there's
turns
very
into a vagina
specific,
kind of
like
thing?
certain ducts become one
Right.
thing versus the other, but we have parallel tissue, like certain parts of the labia are similar
Sure.
to parts of the scrotum. And so we all just have nipples for that same reason. So it's like so simple, but you have to think outside of the box and change your thinking to understand it. In terms of butt cracks, I think it probably honestly has to do with the evolutionary change of being quadrupedal to being bipedal, going from 4 legs up to 2 legs. I think that's probably.
So you think,
why
well,
we
did the
developed.
crack exist so that we didn't shit on the back of our own thighs when we were walking on all fours?
Well, I
or
don't-
how does that?
I don't
Now I'm
think-
confused because now I
don't
actually
think-
want a real answer.
We name it. We call it like a butt crack, like it's
Sure.
like it's a body part. It's not really a body
No,
part.
it's a separation of
it's
two,
a separation
really.
of 2 body parts. So I think that we probably it's those muscles. Because as we turned to go upright, they just kind of moved in towards each other. I don't think it's anything.
See, it's not about the negative space. You're right.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
focusing on the crack, and it's not
The crack is
cracked.
not a thing.
There's not even a crack there.
It's not a
you
thing.
just matrixed us. There is no spoon. There is no ass crack. My life isn't real. Neither is God. It's a computer simulation, and I'm still not getting laid tonight. Cara Santa Maria, absolute pleasure to have you on the Pointless Podcast.
Thanks for having
Thank you
me.
for coming by. Tell the folks at home where they can find you on Twitter, the HuffPo, all that madness.
Yes, please. So I'm on Twitter at Cara Santa Maria. It's spelled with a C. I am on Facebook, facebook.com/ScienceCara. And I'm on HuffPo Science under Talk Nerdy to me. I think there's a long URL like huffingtonpost.com/science/news/talk-nerdy.
Ask Jeeves, they'll find
but
it.
really, if you go to carasantamaria.com, it sends
That's
you
it.
there.
And what's the Weather Channel show coming out
Oh,
soon?
the Weather Channel show is called Hacking the Planet, and it airs on the Weather Channel on February 28th.
And please, you come back sometime.
I'd love to.
And we're going to chat relationships.
Okay.
Because we kind of did. I've kind of pulled a little bit, but we're going to we're going to do a deep dive. But in
Okay,
these pills, the ones you're taking now, if I were to take them to have a fun Saturday, is it not going to affect me
It
that way,
wouldn't.
is it?
No, it takes like a good week until
What do
they
we
even
need to
start
take? I
working.
asked you that earlier. What do we need to take to have what's a fun evening and how do we make that at home?
Ecstasy?
You can't
Molly.
get pure stuff anymore. You just
Yeah.
can't. Now everybody. Okay, all right. Kill these mics. And we're gonna have a chat. Brian, anything you want to plug and chat about? There's always something going on in your world.
Yeah, I'm going next month. I'll be in San Diego. I'm doing a show at the American Comedy Company, and that's go to AmericanComedyCo.com, and then the following day, I am swimming with dolphins and SeaWorld. So.
Oh my God, are you podcasting that or you're just doing it?
No, I'm going to have somebody videotape it though, and I'm wearing a very small bathing suit. Hopefully, they'll let
God.
me wear this.
I hope you wear. Are you wearing like a Speedo, like
I'm gonna
a
try.
grape smuggler?
I mean, if I can get away with it, like not wearing like the vest and everything, I want as less clothing as possible. So
yeah,
I'm gonna
don't
try.
Nice.
don't say it like that.
Don't
to
have
them
sex with a dolphin.
In
I'm
that
not gonna
voice,
have
please.
sex.
Don't have sex with a
I'm not
dolphin.
going
I want to see if those
You
dolphins
showed me that,
really do cry.
that dolphin vagina. I remember that dolphin vagina. Don't have sex with a dolphin. Oh, I have one other thing I can plug.
Please.
So in late March, so about a month from now, I'm going to be speaking at the American Atheist Convention in Austin, Texas. So if you're around, you should come check it out.
What were the odds it was in Austin of all parts
I
of
know.
Texas? Little
know.
Blue Island.
Exactly.
When is that?
It's like late March, like the last weekend in March, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
That doesn't overlap with South by at all, does it?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not
That'd
sure.
be cool.
That'd
That
be
would
really
be cool,
yeah.
actually.
thank you again for coming on.
for
Absolute
having
pleasure.
me.
Folks, go to supercreative.tv for a bunch of bullshit. We've got some pointless t-shirts coming out soon. We got a trailer for Player versus Pain launching very soon. You can follow me on Twitter, K Pereira. Thank you for listening to Pointless Kisses, Hugs, Belly Rubs. Have a good night, everybody!
On the summer breeze, keep me warm in your love, in your song.